Live from Pahrump, Nevada in the Dirt Bike Test studio. Sounds so official, doesn't it?
Oh, God, it's fantastic.
Where I just got out of the Dirt Bike Test pool because it's too hot to go riding today. It's the first day that I think it's officially too hot to go riding.
Ooh, it was warm.
This is Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, number 17. I'm here with Big John Perkins, who daringly made a return back. We are going to answer your motorcycle and motorcycle-related questions. And I'm looking at the background. It looks like I have wires coming out of the top of my head. I need a tall hat, don't I?
You need a bigger seat.
I need to sit up or something. I'll try to sit up. Good for my posture. So we are. I've been doing this for a little while. We are brought to you basically by no one tonight, but we're still getting helped out by Kate's Bars. If you are hungry and you are out riding, there is nothing better than a Kate's Bar. I have one right here. Right here. I found it. Look at Kate's Bars. The tastiest things you can carry around in your fanny pack. If you want a discount code on Kate's Bars, send me an email, jimmy@dirtbiketest.com, and I can get you a discount code, and you will be addicted to. Look at that. The Kate's logo comes right up. There's Gabe over there helping us out with these little technological things that I don't understand.
You know, underrated process on the Kate's Bars is the wrapper is actually tough enough to bounce around in your pack all day and not break.
And for multiple months.
Yeah.
I can attest to that. It's a good quality wrapper holding a very nice, solid quality food. So that's something you didn't know about Kate's Bars. And I have a Ramiro's Taco. Ramiro's is the original home of Dirt Bike Test. These are tasty tacos. I'm going to eat some right now, and John's going to talk because my mouth's going to be full.
Oh, God, yeah. I'd love to talk about your tacos. Anyways, Ramiro's definitely fantastic tacos. Local here in Pahrump.
Yep.
Are they an active sponsor on this particular program? Or?
Hey, they didn't kick me out of the bar, so I mean, I left because the internet connection wasn't that good. But
did you get your seat yet?
No.
Oh.
On that I forgot about that, and I'm glad you just bummed me out by bringing that up.
I apologize.
So
I'll have to bring that back up next time.
we have some questions. Pass the Techron. I'm not going to drink this, although it does look drinkable. We know a little bit actually, I know a lot more about Chevron Techron Power Sports additive. So we're going to kind of go through a run-through on that. The guys there were kind enough to let me do a little conference call with them and learn a lot about the product. John's going to learn about the product right now by reading the label because I make sure he's fully prepped when he comes on here. And as my social media criticizer, he also was nice to me today, and he said he learned everything he could about the 2020 Yamahas by reading Dirt Bike Test posts and or going to our website. Or did you just look at Instagram?
I may or may not have used social media to find such information, but it's so hard when social media is such a big part in most people's lives these days.
Yeah. So you tripped over it on accident.
Yes, exactly.
What else did you trip over today, by the way? What was your scary moment today?
My scary moment?
Yeah, you said you had a scary moment. You went over your parents' house, you walked into your parents, you visited.
Oh, goodness. Actually, a fantastic time. I walked into my parents' house this afternoon, and they had Tech Talk Taco Tuesday on the TV, on the big screen. Motorcycle lovers, all of them.
Yeah, your parents were stalking you on the internets. How did they find out about that? What was their?
I'm gonna go with the social media stumble upon.
Yeah,
same as most information that's passed around this world.
How parents keep track of their kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to dive right into some of the questions that we received over the course of last week. As usual, we put these up. Currently, we're putting them up on YouTube. Eventually, there'll be a podcast someplace when I get unlazy and start to produce that and put it up someplace. But right now, you can ask your questions on our YouTube feed and or on this live feed if you're watching it now on Facebook. And this is from David Lindenschmidt. And it says he sent it 12 hours ago, but that was a week ago. He says, would the JD Tuner add enough fuel for an open exhaust? All the shops keep telling me I need a Vortex or a Get. I have a 2017 FE350. I mainly just chase my 6 to 8-year-old boys around on trails only. I'd like to either add an end cap or a slip-on exhaust. That's really it. Yeah, all you need is a JD jetting tuner. The funny thing is I'm not 100% sure. I mean, the Vortex is kind of more. It's a more high performance thing because you can also tune the ignition as well as the fueling. And it's generally they give you 10 maps inside of it, and they're back ordered all the time. It seems like the Get. I don't know that they make a. That's usually data acquisition stuff, correct?
Yeah,
Or-
as far as I know. Yeah.
I mean, I know at the factory level they have tuning. They have tuning stuff, but I've not used a Get tuner or a Get ECU, so I don't know that. But for what you need, it will add plenty of fuel for an open exhaust. It'll add too much fuel for an open exhaust, but you don't really want an quote open exhaust. What they are referring to when you say open exhaust, you just want to kind of get it freed up a little bit. An end cap or a slip-on is actually a pretty dramatic increase on that bike. It's really good. Only when you add the JD jetting tuner or a tuner of that nature. So yes, it'll be fine. That's all that I have on my personal bike. So, and I run an FMF exhaust and the tuner, and I'm very happy with how much power it has. I don't do any other modifications for power.
Those are pretty amazing kits for what you pay and what you get in return.
Because the bike is basically so corked up stock, and you're like if you bought the same parts for your motocross bike, you'd get like maybe a 2 or 5% increase maximum. But on this thing, you're getting like a 20% increase.
Yeah, because they got those things all kinds of stuffed up for because
For sound.
Those are 50 state legal bikes.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Anytime you're talking about a bike that's either street legal or green sticker compliant, you're talking about an EPA compliant bike. So Jason Sands asks, "Hey Jimmy, I really like that skid plate for the 1090. Which brand is it?" You're referring to one of the videos we have on my personal KTM 1090 that I built up. I'm pretty sure that is the TourTech. Actually, I'm positive it's the TourTech Hydroform skid plate. It's pretty light for an adventure skid plate, but it does plenty of protection, and which is good, and it doesn't change the handling characteristics, and it protects a lot of stuff. So
does that skid plate mount to the chassis, or
it does tie into the chassis and into the motor through they have some pretty interesting things that I don't remember specifically what it ties to. Like so for instance, I've tried a bunch of different skid plates on those bikes. So there's Black Dog Cycle Works, which makes the giant tank-like
those things are heavy.
skid plates. They're heavy, and they're for guys
Heavy
that
duty.
smash into stuff. And I have one on the bike that I like to hop over logs on for demonstrations because that's the best one for that. And it ties into like the foot peg mounts. It utilizes. I think they take it almost. They don't really tie into the engine too much, and if they do, they beef it up where it goes. But the KTM hard parts actually has almost like a couple metal bars that run underneath it, and then they mount to some hard points on the frame as well. And so, because some of the skid plates mount to the engine cases and stuff, which is just like, let's just destroy everything when we.
Yeah, I know that's a big worry in the adventure community.
Hit the skid plate. I'm not I try not to ride the bike where I would actually need too much of a skid plate, because then you're going outside of the parameters for that bike and you could be in trouble. But the TourTech one is fine for the KTM 1090. I think it's a really good skid plate. And it doesn't add a ton of weight, which on those bikes it's already a problem. So try not to make any more. Danny Azazello. Hey, this is the riding question. This is about riding technique. I'm going to put that one off till later. I'm not ready for that yet. I probably have to break that. That could just go on forever. Stephen Walker, how about tires, specifically dual sport tires? We, Coyote Trail Adventures, have really found durability versus cost versus function that we really like. The Moto Z and Kenda rear tires work great. Still not totally happy with a great front tire. So far, the Moto Z's intermediate 90/90 is good. Thoughts on any of our tires? Well, Stephen, where you and I differ is durability versus cost versus function. And if you threw function, if your word function means performance, most of the Moto Z's tires kind of fall off of my spectrum at that point. They're excellent for durability. I'll give you that. But in performance, they're medium to subpar at best. A lot of the tires, especially on adventure bikes that get good durability, you know, we're talking about like Heidenhaus and Metis, some of the Metis ones, and these ones that guys go, I got 7,000 miles on this tire, and look at it. And it's like, yeah, it's made out of cement, and there's no grip from the rubber. There's no bump compliance, or there's too much bump compliance from the carcass. It's just like they're really bad. And if you can't feel it, then fine. You're in a good position to buy inexpensive tires, I guess. But I'm telling you that the tire is what's hooking up to the ground, and that's where you're getting your traction from. And whether you can feel it or not, it's still getting the same amount of traction. Well, for the most part, a better rider will take better advantage of the traction, and we'll talk about the Graham Jarvis video a little bit, and then talk about traction. But anyways, so Kenda, and the full disclosure here, Kenda supports my off-road riding schools and helps me out with tires for that. So I am biased in that respect, but at the same time, they make really good tires. And I run them on my personal bikes as well, and I put them on test bikes quite often, and I'm really happy with the Kenda. So if we're talking adventure bikes, we're talking like the big block. The standard issue tire that you would say is the good baseline that everybody talks about is the Continental TKC80. Now, the Kenda is very similar to that. It has a little different knob shape and stuff, but performance-wise, they're almost identical. For me, the Continental is better on road, where you're gripping, where you're doing long sweeping turns, and you're relying on the rubber and the tread pattern to hold you on the road. Where the Kenda is better is in bump compliance. So if you were going between the identical bike and you just switch those two tires, when you're going around those long turns on the Kenda big block, you would feel a slight bit of squirming, not that much, not enough to scare you, not like you were on one of those other brands I mentioned earlier, which you would be very scared or crashed. But when you ride down a washboarded dirt road, which you do a lot of times on adventure bikes, it feels like your suspension works better on the Kenda tires. And this is with the same or similar pressures in the tires. And I run 27 front and rear most of the time on those two tires. The other tire, and then you throw cost into it, and the other tire is a higher cost. Well, the Continental's a high-cost tire. The other one, when you throw cost into it, you can talk about the Michelin Anarchy Wild 3, and that tire has very, very similar performance to the other two tires, the Kenda and the Continental. But I think in a little bit, it's just a step back in traction, just overall traction in any situation, but it's also a step up in durability. So it will go maybe 500 more miles if in similar conditions. So those are the three tires that I would talk about there. You know who else makes some pretty good adventure tires is Golden Tire. I have not done a ton of testing with them, but they some of the big ones that you see guys riding on their dual sport bikes now work really well on adventure bikes off-road, and they're surprisingly good on road. They're not to the same level as the more, you know, the big block and the TKC80, but off road they're a step above. It's kind of like what you would expect the Dunlop 908 to work and look like, the way it looks like you'd expect it to work, but it works way better. So that's my breakdown on tires. Hopefully, Stephen Walker, I answered your question, and I'll probably have to answer it again next week because somebody will have some other variant of the same question, and I'll say, "Go! You should listen to last week's podcast."
Anytime you're asking for three of the best things in life, it's hard to get them all.
Yeah. Okay. Casey Polatis. Pepper. Does that go inside the radiator? So he is asking from last week's podcast. He was asking because somebody said that I should have poured. I had another rider rode my radiator through a tree on our WR450 Yamaha, and it started leaking, pretty substantial leaks. And somebody recommended pepper, and I hadn't thought about it for a while. I've heard about it before. And yes, it goes in the radiator. So basically, when it starts leaking, you pour the pepper and a pretty substantial quantity of pepper into the radiator. And since it kind of floats and it has heavier and lighter pieces, it hopefully finds the holes, and those tend to plug the hole if it's not a big, giant, gaping wound. This thing was so smashed, all the cracks were kind of like cuts in the seams. So it may have worked. I managed to get it back without the pepper, but yes. So he needed, if he wanted, he's doing the tour of Idaho, and he wondered if he should pack some pepper. You should, because then if your pizza isn't spicy enough, you just sprinkle a little bit on top, and bingo.
You can also use sawdust.
Sawdust? Yeah.
Very fine sawdust does the same thing. Also good to pack because it lights a good fire.
Yep. Another
tour of Idaho, stuck in the middle of the desert.
And I've heard people strangely enough say egg whites. They've egg whites.
And also if your pizza is a little...
Yeah, if your pizza's gone bad, you can put your pizza in there. I don't think that's the best thing to do. What are the best ways to reduce engine temperature, he asks. Don't slip the clutch. Everybody, you know what? When your bike starts overheating, 90% of the time it's the clutch. You're slipping the clutch. It's making heat and friction, and the oil's getting hot, and then the oil's carrying it up into your top end, and it's getting hot. A engine fan, if your bike has a fan, or you can put a accessory cooling fan on your radiators, that will help if your engine heat temperature is coming in slow speeds, which generally it is. I have noticed that some of the different radiator guards at high speeds can cause the bikes to run hot. So you're running the bike really hard, going high speed, and if you have some of the radiator guards that aren't louvered, the air goes through there, I guess, too fast. It doesn't slow it down, or it doesn't create the vortex.
And aerodynamics are really weird too, because a lot of times, like the flatter radiator guards, so the ones that actually protect the front of the radiator versus the side impact.
Yep.
They'll deadhead air because it'll basically build a vortex there, and it'll build a block there
when you're going fast. So it's maybe it's not flowing through too fast. See, if Mojave Bob were here, he could correct us on that, but I scared him away, I'm pretty sure, because he wanted to write an introduction. That was he's trying to get you to read last time. He was having you read those funny lines. And he
I was ready for it.
He degraded my current hometown of Pahrump, Nevada. He called it a bad word, kind of, and I decided that I didn't like it, so I might have offended him. But you never know. He may be watching live, but he doesn't have the internet right now, evidently, because he's relying on the excellent internet connectivity that we have out here.
Fantastic.
And he doesn't do Facebook. I'll bet you he does. He's a stalker on Facebook.
So I don't know if your ideas differ on this, but quality antifreeze. I've personally found that I can drop quite a few degrees by putting something along the lines of engine ice or water wetter.
Okay. So that is he's working up that thing. So he's asking about fans, aftermarket radiators. You know, some people make aftermarket radiators, or start with something like Evans coolant. I have found that good, pure water is some of the best stuff to have in your radiators for kind of like cooling. I mean, that's
because antifreeze doesn't actually have...
Yeah, and so I've seen people add antifreeze, and all of a sudden they start add a lot of antifreeze, you know, because usually it's 50-50, which is good. If you have freezing issues and stuff like that. If you don't have freezing, you don't necessarily need it. But I did do some tests a while back where we used water wetter and added the appropriate amount of water wetter to the water, and it did drop it like 4 or 5 degrees. Which was pretty good. I have tried some of the different waterless coolants, and I can't say that I really noticed a big difference. And we did at Dirt Rider, we did a very kind of extensive test on all this different stuff. We did it for a Dr. Dirt in the back of the book, and we just didn't see a huge difference. And the problem with the non-water stuff is water's kind of easy to get. Generally, most of your buddies have water in their backpacks, and you always use theirs, so you still have yours to drink, right? So you can pour some of their water in your radiator, but if you can't mix water, I don't know who's carrying that stuff. And so, like on something like a Tour of Idaho in, I don't know where the Tour of Idaho goes. I didn't study the route this year, but when you get to that place where there's just a cabin, you're not going to get any of the stuff. So I would just do your 75-25, 75% water, 25% antifreeze for some corrosion
Yes, of course.
inhibiting factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Distilled water. Yeah. Distilled
Especially
water.
Tour of Idaho, you definitely want some of that antifreeze in there.
Yeah.
Should it get to
It gets cold,
significantly below
and add water wetter. I've had, like I said, I've had good luck with it, and it did. I remember in the test, it did. All of them dropped it a little bit. There was some sort of drop. Well, some of them didn't. And the other thing about that is some of them cooled down quicker than others. I mean, how they dissipated the heat, and you have to understand. And I did some testing with one of the Boysen impeller kits. That has a different impeller and stuff. That I did a lot of testing with it, in fact, because someone was telling me that it really works. It really works, and I found out that your cooling system is a system, and if you replace one part, generally they're all engineered to work to each other's level. So when you start spinning your coolant faster into your radiators that can't handle the coolant coming through there faster, it doesn't make a difference. And so maybe that is the case with some of these coolants. That they maybe they need to spend a little more time, or maybe they don't need to spend as much time in the motor, more time in the radiator, and so there's a lot of stuff to it. But I mean, quit slipping the clutch, and you don't need to worry about this.
And I think that pretty much sums up the question about bigger radiators as well.
Yeah. It's. I mean, bigger radiators can help, and they can also hurt because you don't want your bike running too cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they run good at a certain temperature, better at a good temperature.
And then in the same sense of, I mean, if you're doing something really technical and you're constantly slipping the clutch, constantly really low, grunty slipping clutch, lots of heat in the motor, lots of heat in the bike, it may stay cooler a little longer, but now you've got a bigger radiator full of the same temperature water and still no wind to cool it down.
Yeah.
So it's now you've just got a larger mass of
now you have more
water.
heat that you got to get rid of somehow or another. So it's a system. Remember, they do a pretty good job of designing and engineering this stuff. So the fan would probably be your first. If you don't have one, the fan would be the first step in that direction. Okay, let me see. I had my things. We're going to talk about the 2020 Suzukis, which will take about 10 seconds, and then we'll talk about the 2020 Yamahas, which will take a little bit longer. But I'm going to answer the riding question. I'm going to go for it. Okay, Danny Anza Zello. Talking about gear and bikes is fun and all, but let's not forget to talk about the actual riding. I have two questions. I have about 100, but you have two. First, in your experience teaching and observing people ride, what works for getting weekend warrior type riders who come into the sport past the time when learning is easy and injuries heal quickly to keep progressing? So you're talking about new old dudes. Is that am I decoding that right?
That's
okay.
right. That's right.
I just say they should come to my riding school. Yeah. Best $700 you'll spend. It might not be $700 by the time next year rolls around, but
incredibly cheap compared to one
cast.
visit.
Yeah, one cast.
One cast will negate that.
In fact, it is the best modification you can do to your motorcycle is to put a better rider on it. I've found that like with 100% consistency, putting a better rider on the motorcycle. So as far as modifying the bike, put a better rider on it. So what works getting the weekend where it's in reality, okay, so far the best I know of is to try and find people to ride with who are faster and hit the gym during the week. Okay. I know a lot of guys that are fast and hit the gym all the time, and they can't tell me what they're doing. And I sure as heck don't want to follow them. And I'm talking about me riding with guys that are way faster and hit the gym all the time. Mm-hmm. I can watch them, and because I know what they're doing, I can kind of learn. But if I didn't know what I was doing, I wouldn't want to, because they're going to tell you to get over the back and gas it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong with that scenario there. I mean, yes, in the ideal perfect scenario, if you follow a guy and he's faster than you, you should get faster. If you have all of the fundamentals, if you've got everything down, if you know what you're doing and you know what you're applying, then you can pick up a little bit of time here in tenths of seconds. You're not going to jump a 10-second lap time span by following someone that's faster than you. You might ride over your head and make it a couple laps before you crash harder, but
then you have the injuries that don't heal so quickly. Yeah, back to that. I'm going to answer the second question. I'm going to roll back into it. So, second question: teaching noob ladies, how to ride. I see a lot of angst with dudes trying to get their girlfriends, wives, just friends, to at least hit the trails with them. Very different mindset, etc. Tips and tricks to make it fun and avoid the usual pitfalls. Dimitri, I think my wife answered that question on the forum where you answered it, and she suggested have her go riding with girls, and because I can tell you that as the course director of an all women's off road navigation rally, they are different. They're definitely different. So I can't explain it because I'm not one, but heed her advice. And sometimes they don't. It's just like even with your buddies, if you have two completely different skill levels, you probably shouldn't go riding together. I mean, like if you both want to enjoy it, if there's a teaching relationship going on. But my wife Heather would tell you straight up that I was probably the worst teacher she ever had, other than I just beat it into her. Did I say that out loud? Yeah. It was painful.
The terminology
it was painful. It just because it's hard to teach someone that you're close to.
No, of course.
It's way better.
It's a lot easier to
hire a
argue.
coach. So roll back. Here's the thing: is when we're talking about riding skills and stuff, it's really simple. I'm going to give this to you right now. So a motorcycle does four things: it accelerates, it decelerates, it initiates a turn, and it controls a turn. This is in my world. Other people teach differently. So I can explain anything that anybody does on a motorcycle at any time in using those four terminologies. I can say it's doing this, 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 and this. When you get up to expert level, those guys can blend stuff together, blend two things together and make it work. But the reason they can do it is because they do it instinctively and they're not thinking about it, and they have very high level control of the basic functions in the motorcycle: throttle, clutch, brakes. And number one, they have balance. So everything I talked about, those four things I talked about, everything revolves around two things: balance and traction. So most riders, most of the time, are out of balance, especially the weekend warrior types who come into the sport past the time when learning is easy. They are constantly out of balance. And the funny thing is they have balance. They walk around all day. They don't think about balance when they get out of bed, and they manage to balance quite well. But they get on a motorcycle and everything goes out the window because all of a sudden they're trying to use their hands for balance. And I don't know very many people can do handstands and walk around on their hands. And then they start trying to control the bike with their upper body as opposed to using their feet like they should. So this is the kind of stuff we teach. It's really basic. But if you want to start out just from the minute they get on the bike needs to be balanced. When they generally they crawl onto the bike, they should be balanced on the bike. They shouldn't be putting 2 feet down. They should only have 1 foot down because when the 2 feet come down, then they're trying to straddle a motorcycle and then they're along for the ride. So lots of techniques. So I would just concentrate on making sure they're balanced to start with. And then if they can't do something slow, in other words, ride around slow, trials riding skills very slow, they can't do it fast. And they should never try to do something fast if they can't do the same thing slower than they feel comfortable. There's a comfortable speed, and if they can't do it slower, they can't do it faster. That is that simple. And we spend a lot of time teaching that, I think. Don't I teach that?
Yeah. There's a couple of
things.
Snippets in there. My biggest thing with teaching women, whether it's your significant other, whether it's your friends, significant other, anything along that sense, is bike selection is actually a pretty big deal to women because bikes weigh very little when they're in balance.
I thought you were going to say the pretty one.
So bikes weigh very little when they're in balance, and depending on the weight of the bike, when they fall out of balance, now they get really, really heavy. Jimmy will contest to this. Every time he falls over on his adventure bike, they so
The bike falls over
yes,
because I can't hold it up because it's too heavy.
But when looking for a motorcycle for these particular women, don't go diving into if it's her very first time on a motorcycle, don't dive into a full size bike and then go get it lowered. It's you're spending needless money for.
They're never going to go the speed that you think that they need to go on that bike because it's big enough to go the speed. Like
exactly.
A nice small 250 4-stroke, or even some of the kids' bikes are, depending on the size of your girl.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, even an average sized woman can fit on even an XR100 is not that small of a motorcycle.
I ride one.
I ride one.
Yeah,
but and
you're big guy.
Yeah, and that's kind of a fantastic route to go to because the older XR lines, they're not the heaviest bike in the world. They're fairly smaller, downsized bike because even a full size bike, if you lower it, a lot of times if it's a small woman, the ergonomics really don't work because they're smaller people. So lowering it to the ground to get both their feet on the ground, you're just.
Then you make it handle horrible.
Yeah, you're asking a lot of the bike. It'll feel sluggish. It'll feel extra heavy, which even though it is already heavier, that kind of low rear end will make it extra heavy.
Yeah. And I've seen some people go the complete opposite. They look at the weight and they go, "Well, you need a YZ250."
A YZ125 is a very light bike.
Yeah. You need some sort of thing that has a high strung race motor and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of considerations and stuff, but for sure in the training side of things, take it slow. There's really good, like if you're just getting started, Dirt Bike School, which is you can find through dirtbikeschool.com, which is Motorcycle Safety Foundation, has a really good introduction program to get people started. And if it is somebody you're close to, try to find someone who's a good trainer that can take them and put them in an environment where they don't feel so pressured. And then because they get pressured, then they get mad, and then they yell at you, and then you start yelling, and then you yell back and forth. And then I used to think that if I yelled louder, I would make Heather madder, and she would just do it to quit listening to me yell.
Mm-hmm. That works good, doesn't it?
No. Yeah, actually, it kind of did for a while, but then she figured out my game, so we yelled louder and louder. And she kind of, over the end of it, she realized that if she just got to be a better rider, she'd get to quit listening to me yell.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And two, at the end of the day, if you get yourself a nice little CRF 230 and say your significant other doesn't like riding nearly as much as she thought you would, you end up with a really nice pit bike.
You build a flat track in your yard and do donuts.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know somebody who did that. Okay, so that's it for our pre-programmed questions. Now I'm going to talk about fuel additives and stabilizers.
Oh boy,
because I learned some stuff. So, this is the Chevron Techron. It's their Power Sports blend. It's kind of a new thing. They sent me some PR on it, so I started asking questions. I started dumping it in some bikes and vehicles to test it, to begin testing it, because it's not something I'm going to test in 25 minutes and then, write a report. I'm going to actually figure out how this stuff works, but I realized I didn't know exactly how it works or what it does and what it has in it. So I got on a conference call with some of their engineers. They have a technical lab someplace in Central or Northern California. And they kind of explained to me and went straight into talking right over my head and most of our heads. But I did take some notes, and I know a little bit more about it. So the funny thing is that there's a lot of different stuff out there, and everybody has a different method or idea for which is the right, correct blend. And Chevron for sure has their own ideas about this as well. Techron is kind of their brand name for their additive package, and you see it on the pumps. They have a little bit of it in all of their gas, evidently. But this is what they call something that's for continuous use. I wrote down the words here. So they call this it's called continuous use, and it's called fit for purpose. And they kept saying that, and I think what they're trying to say is that they want to make sure that that they've designed this for all the stuff that lives near: motorcycles, dirt bikes, lawn care equipment, ATVs, UTVs, construction machinery, small engines, snowmobiles, outdoor power equipment. So it's kind of it's kind of like stuff that gets used, I would say, intermittently, but or could be stored for a while. It's not like your car.
It does say stabilizes up to 2
Yeah.
years.
So I asked all these. I asked every claim they made. I asked a question about, and I've actually run some of my own semi-scientific, not really tests where I actually was dangling main jets inside of glass jars. I'd punch a hole in the cover and dangle a main jet inside of a glass jar with different fuel additives in. It was suspended in the fuel, and watch the fuel evaporate to see if I could simulate some of the stuff I was seeing inside of carburetors. And I talked to some different people about what was going on inside of there, and I've had a couple different answers. And these guys knew every time I asked them a question, they knew, okay, that's oxidation, that's corrosion, that's this. The green color is generally coming from your brass or copper parts. The white stuff is generally coming from the aluminum parts or the magnesium parts, the oxidation. Red, if you're having red, which is rust, is more from iron parts, if there are some. And they were even telling me about some of the carburetors they've seen, and some of their tests are now, they have plastic carburetors out there. And one of the guys had been around long enough where he was talking about brass floats, old brass float, and some of the
couple of those.
Yeah, on your old stuff. So it was super, super interesting, enlightening. So what you need to know about this stuff is this one is meant to be used all the time. It's their mix is, what does it say? It's 1 ounce for 4 gallons. Is that so? It's not a lot. And I asked about, like, is it better to put more in? And they said, well, not really. So that, because I'm one of those guys. Well, if 1 ounce is good, then I'll put 2 ounces in and it'll be better, sort of thing, when I'm trying to clean out a carburetor. And they said that there would be some extra added effect, but maybe not as much as you would think, because that's their optimum ratio. So it's 1 ounce. I'm pretty sure it's 1 ounce. Gabe, is it? You see those pamphlets that are sitting next to you? You can bring one of those things over, and John can take a look at that too, and correct me if I was wrong, which is true.
I don't see it on here, but
so
we'll see.
So it has corrosion inhibitors, and basically what a corrosion inhibitor does is it coats everything inside the carburetor. It's a molecule that likes to stick to things and essentially impregnate, or not really necessarily impregnate, but just stick to the sides of the places where there is stuff that it can stick to, and it likes to stick to metal. I think
it's 1 ounce per gallon.
1 ounce per gallon.
Oh, 1 ounce per 4 gallons.
1 ounce per 4. I was right.
Yep.
Hey, this thing still works.
Yeah, getting somewhere.
Yeah. So it's got corrosion inhibitors in there. It has antioxidants, which tends to help with stabilizing the fuel, and this is what makes it so the fuel can last. And it prevents the varnish from forming.
So it doesn't break down and oxidize the brasses and the irons and the aluminums, and whatnot.
And then there's a detergent in there, and so I kind of asked, and I'll explain that in a second. So there's a detergent in there, and then there's essentially so when there's detergents, there's solvents and there's detergents. And so solvents would be a little harsher chemicals, and they said there's a little bit of solvents in there, but not a lot, because it's meant to be.
I see it's alcohol free.
Yeah, it's meant to not be hard on your carburetor, and then but it uses detergents, which are, get this, polarized head long chains hydrocarbons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Same stuff that's in Rotella.
Polarized head long chains hydrocarbons, and what those do is they
I may have made that statistic up. I apologize, but
it's okay. So they are basically attracted to the stuff that, like, might be the gum or the varnish. That's what the polarized head part of the thing does. And then the long chain hydrocarbon is like a tail on this thing, and then it grabs the contaminant and drags it out. And it does this inside of your fuel, inside of the carburetor or fuel injector, and evidently it does some of that inside of the combustion chamber and in the intake track, so it can remove carbons, and deposits, and so this is where it kind of went over my head. And so, like, if you're listening to this right now and then you're going to go explain it to your friend, you're you're probably going to get it wrong because I have a certain amount of wrong, and you know how they like if I whispered in your ear something and it goes around the table, and so you just got to remember that is probably the case. I saw Mitch walked out, so he probably figured out that he didn't want to hear anymore. But
I came back.
yeah, he came back though. But anyways, it sounds like pretty good stuff. It sounds, and I have had, so I've used their fuel injector cleaner before, and I've had success with it. And I told them how I used it. I actually, when I was noticing a fuel injector starting to get plugged, like on a single cylinder motorcycle, when you start losing power, it's generally, if everything else is good, and you start losing power, it's fuel filters, i.e. you're not getting enough gas, or fuel injector. And if I knew that my fuel filters were clean, and I said, hey, the injector's starting to plug, and I've never plugged an injector. I've always caught it before it went kind of completely kaput. It's just like, especially at high horsepower, high load, we would actually take the poor man's way of doing this was to disconnect the fuel line, drain the fuel out on the one side. I would put the fuel injector cleaner in there, in it, plug it back in, and then kind of get it to halfway to start, so the fuel injector cleaner would sit inside of there.
Okay.
And then let it sit for a little while, and then try to start it again, let it sit. So you're essentially putting the stuff in there. I learned that probably wasn't the best way to do it.
Maybe a little too intrusive, a little too harsh.
Well,
or...
it's that the way that those polarized head long chain hydrocarbons work, they like to be moving past stuff. They don't necessarily work when they're just sitting there.
Okay.
Because they're not a solvent. They're more of a detergent. They're going to wash stuff out. So they need to go by and grab it.
Or
yeah, exactly. Friction, agitation, motion. So like something that would be more, that technique would have worked something like that was more of a solvent. But the problem with solvents is depending on how aggressive they are. If you did that with a very aggressive solvent, you could be doing damage if that solvent were sitting. And I asked about like, okay, how much, they said there's a little bit of solvent in this. How bad is it on O-rings and stuff? And they say it's not bad at all. That's why it doesn't have a lot of it in there. We want this to be able to sit in your carburetor the whole time, and we don't want it to attack the O-rings. And we have seen, especially in carburetors that have all these mid-body gaskets and stuff, if you put some harsh solvents in there, even like when you're spraying, especially when you're spraying like a carburetor cleaner or something in there, and it gets in there and it sits, it'll either dry the O-ring out or it'll melt it, one or the other. It takes some of the parts out of the rubber, and so that is what I've learned about that. So to test it, I'm going to do some of my little tests. I'm going to put some of this stuff in some of my glass jars and evaporate some stuff off with pilot jets hanging down in there, and see how it helps the fuel, how it stabilizes the fuel essentially. And the other thing we talked about a lot was ethanol, the ethanol in our gas, which is in most everybody's gas. And here's the interesting thing, because water is very corrosive.
Yes.
And that's the problem, is that ethanol attracts water. So if you have just zero ethanol gas, it can take about 150 parts per million of water. When you have ethanol gas at 10%, it can take 5,000 to 7,000 parts per million of water. So now you see how much water your ethanol gas is absorbing. And that water getting in there is what's causing all of the problems inside of our carburetors and or fuel injectors.
So the idea behind the stabilizer is that it's going to mitigate the amount of parts per water it's taking on, or
it's going to. Okay, I made a note about this. It's tricky. It has to do with the emulsifier. When the water separates, and you see how it's good.
I feel like we should have a graph for
Hey,
this.
Chris Barrett, I need help here because it's good.
Good stuff.
Is it neutralizing the bad issues?
Mitch called this in here. It's neutralizing the bad issue. It does. It helps. It helps. I mean, no matter what, your ethanol gas is going to suck in. It's going to pull in more water and stuff. This mostly because it's done the coating. It's done the corrosion inhibition. It mitigates the effect of the water inside of the fuel system. So it's not going to change the fact that it's going to suck in water, and then a lot of how much water it is has to do with temperature, and at a certain temperature it actually separates. And it was crazy when this chemist started talking about all that stuff. It was amazing, and I took it in, and I kind of have a vague.
So that might be the thing that I would be the most interested in. Wouldn't so much be the fuel stabilization and it's right here, the corrosion, whatever that word is that you've written down there.
Corrosion inhibition.
That would be kind of my biggest want in this particular product. I would say, because a lot of times you pull these carburetors apart and it's, you've got a pilot jet that is now green. Looks like it's covered in algae.
That's the brass. That's the brass from all your other jets that has been corroded and spread out. Yeah,
which you don't know. I mean, has that taken your 220 jet to a 223 and a quarter?
No, it usually makes your 35 pilot a 0. Yeah, that's usually, and then the air passageway that thing, when it goes up inside of there, it makes that so you're open the valve all the way up and it's still like it's all the way shut.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but once you've taken that, and it's so if the outside of this jet is green and mossy looking, and you clean out this pilot that has now gone from a 52 to a 0, is it now a 53? I mean, there's got to be some material loss there, correct?
Yes.
We're not talking a very big hole here.
No, for sure. And especially, it depends on how you clean it out. I used to use welding tip cleaners to clean them. And sometimes you get it right and it'd run fine. And sometimes it is all of a sudden it's wrong. So replace, you can replace it. So the idea with this stuff is I think it's probably not a bad idea. And I asked this, I said, so if you're riding your bike every week, is this something you need? And they said, well, not in the short term, but in the long term, having it in there every, and they want to sell it. So they're saying, but if you put it in there every once in a while, the cleaning effect is going to work, and it's going to clean some parts. And I have 3 or 4 trucks that have, plus 200,000 miles on them, and I've put stuff like this in the tanks, and I haven't had to, do any fuel injector work. Knock on wood, right? So, I don't think it's bad. And I'll test it, and I'll give you a full test when I can actually say some substantive stuff about how it works. So we put a lot of rental bikes away for the, and we've done different things. We've put 2-stroke gas in them, for instance, in the 4-strokes in all the bikes, because we noticed we had less of that bad reactions inside the carburetors on 2-strokes, less jet plugging. We said, it must be the oil. So we were doing some of that. But then also the 2-stroke oil separated a little bit and, would gum up at the bottom of the carburetor, and then that would suck that in there, and then you have another new problem.
Which I often wonder if that wasn't the reason it was working so well. Because by the time the fuel started to kind of degrade and take on water, the oil had already separated out of it, so now we had basically a layer at the bottom of the fuel tank of mostly oil.
Yep.
So it kind of kept the contaminated fuel towards the top.
Yeah, because the oils don't, and the chemist also talked about the esters in the oils, how they don't like hydrocarbons and stuff, and so
that's a good question. Is this safe to use with a 2-stroke?
Yes. Yep, safety is. They don't recommend it for diesels, but it's safe to use with 2-strokes, and and it's good. And they're very confident in their 2-year storing, with stuff, which is pretty good. So I don't know if I'm going to store any of my bikes for 2 years, but they'll get 4 or 5 months inside of a 140-degree shipping container, and we'll see how that works out. So that's it. Don't drink this, John.
No.
So, okay, I'm going to turn on to the questions that we have, and then we'll talk about, or time to talk about the Yamahas. You want to talk about the Yamahas, don't you? I'm going to rip through the questions as much as I can. Well, tell them what you like about the Yamahas.
Yamaha, brand new, all new redesigned graphics. YZ125X. Got to be the most exciting bike that I've seen so far. I mean, there hasn't been too many 2020 bikes come out yet.
So you're one of those internet goons that just like all you talk about is 2-strokes and 125s.
Yeah,
long live the 2-stroke and the 125. Says the guy who has probably the biggest XR200 following. Known to man. Okay. The YZ125X. I kind of saw it coming. I don't know why. I thought they had one in Japan for a while. I thought that was a model that they had in Japan, and they said, or at least the Yamaha representative said, no, they didn't have one in Japan, but Don't worry, he's working on it.
It's funny that you would actually see that coming because KTM kind of was downplaying their 200 roll, and when they went to the 125 XCW, so
They have 150.
Oh, it's a 150.
Yeah,
now,
150
yes.
XC. Yeah.
I mean, obviously for Yamaha, it's not the biggest deal in the world for them to.
They use the same formula as they have on their YZ250X.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 18-inch wheel, it's the O-ring chain. The transmission on the 125 is already a 6-speed, so they don't need to do anything there. They've tuned the power valve, and that's the biggest thing they do on the YZ250X. I don't know if they do anything on the pipe on the 125, the 250X. The YZ250X is a really, really good adaptation of the YZ250 for off-road.
Yeah, fantastic.
If you're going to do Grand Prix and stuff like that, I tell people it's like get the X. Don't mess around with the YZ. The X is better, and it has a different transmission.
In all honesty, I mean the YZ is a really, really high compression. We're talking just the R model, the 250 motocross model.
Yep.
High compression, rowdy motor. I prefer the X even on a moto track.
Yeah, and
It's a really rideable bike.
and for a lot of those weekend warrior types who come into the sport past the time when learning is easy, I think to go from motocross to an off-road bike, even for motocross, is the power delivery is a little bit better. It's good. So we'll ride that bike as soon as it's available and let you know how it works. The other big news on the off-road front is the YZ250 FX, which is now it's got the app. It works with the Power Tuner app, so it's based off the 19 YZ250, which, as you know, we really like. That bike's a great motocross bike, and they did the FX adaptation to it, just like the YZ450 FX. So you can use the phone Power Tuner app, so you have tons of adjustability there.
That is really hard to beat there.
It's like buying 650 exhaust systems, 80 cams, and all different kinds of things. And then and it has the button. And it's funny, they have a video. It's out on their social media sites, and it's just all about like pushing the button. And they actually did a really good job with it. They show the guy like ripping out in the open, and then coming in the woods and hitting the button, and then you hear the bike going rut, 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 as opposed to and
yeah, I know when Yamaha kind of first came out with that app, it was really quite amazing how broad of a spectrum they offered with that.
Yep.
I mean, it was you could take a rowdy R model 450 and turn it into a
puppy dog bike.
2005 450X with super low end grunt.
Yeah.
It was. You could really do a lot there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think I'm excited about the YZ250FX. I think if you're in that realm, and you saw how well and we even alluded to that bike coming out, but you saw how well that YZ250FX even did in the 2019 form in our comparison. It was kind of like the all around. It was the one that did everything. It definitely had some points where it just kicked ass, but what a good bike! And if it's going to get like YZ better, kind of like the 450 did. Watch out, especially in the 250, because the thing that they have with that interesting engine configuration, the reverse cylinder, the airbox mounted high, the downdraft, it makes power and a lot of it for a long time. And it's just an advantage in the 250 thing. So the YZ450, and John was pretty stoked on the gray color. The gray colorway. Where's the gray? That's the gray. He said black is back.
Yeah, black and gray.
Yep.
According to Yamaha, it's not technically black, but
it's gray. Yeah,
it's gray.
Yeah. So
a little bit of blue there.
They have a blue one and they have a gray one, and that bike they're calling it all new.
Hey,
so
black wheels.
Was it blue? The blue one probably has blue wheels still. So so that one has quite a lot of changes inside the motor. It's an all new cylinder head. It has a different. Probably what you're going to feel the most from is it has a longer rod and a different different height cylinder. It's still displacement's still the same, stroke's still the same, but they've changed some stuff around. So they're obviously
they
going.
changed the angle of the cylinder, correct? Didn't they?
I don't think the angle. No, because the frame is still the same shape and everything like that. They have new engine mounts and they're tuning the rigidity of the chassis, some thicknesses in places. They've played around with the suspension and stuff, but they're Yamaha over the years. It's kind of like KTM. They're going for reduced friction. Everything they can do to find reduced friction inside the motor. with just even the air pumping through the motor. They're working on that kind of stuff. That's where we're at with power, and it's mostly, it's not that bike needed power. I mean, it had plenty of power. They're just trying to spread it out differently and make it better. But
they're boasting more power for 2020, correct?
Yeah, they're definitely saying there's more power. Actually, I have the thing. Let's see. Rear slanted. Let's see. In all, the lighter, more compact engine produces increased power across the entire RPM range for a stronger and more linear pulling power. That's a mouthful.
That is getting seriously impressive these days. I mean, we're
that somebody can write all those awesome words.
that they can put all those words in there, but then also that we can get 450s that are putting this amount of power this smoothly. I mean, it's almost jaw dropping to really think about it. I mean, how much peak horsepower did your XR 650 in Baja make?
Probably not 60, or I think these are around 58. It depends on the dyno. If I ever get a dyno, my dyno is going to have like 5 more horsepower than anybody else's.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we're talking. Everyone, the internet will hate me for this one, but the KX500, the CR500, they didn't make this much horsepower.
No,
they didn't make this much horsepower off. I mean,
and they made it in a range that was about that long.
Yeah, and they were short, they were stubby, they were wild, and these things will absolutely eat one alive.
Yeah, and the motors, physically, the motors are lighter, which is strange. You think, oh, this light 2-stroke motor.
Oh, they've got cams, they've got extra chains, valves, and
yeah. So now you see, you were all YZ125 2-stroke guy, and you just completely. I don't know what I want to call it. The bed, you just wrecked it. You just went back to 4-stroke.
Well, see, I like 450s, but then at the other end of the spectrum, you cannot beat a YZ125 in the fun department.
Yeah. So I like to break down these press releases every once in a while, just to get into it. So the lighter, more compact engine that's still in a frame that's exactly the same size. Yeah, interesting. Because so physically the bike's not going to change, but the motor's lighter and more compact, by some grams. Mm-hmm. But they have to dig down to come up with these things. But let's talk about the Suzuki's real quick.
Well, I mean, it's better than their bold new graphics.
RMZ 450, since it's already a champion. A lot of stuff happened last year, is what they're saying, and they're going to they're going to be exactly the same, which isn't a bad thing, because the interesting thing is they're a lot less expensive. They're a couple grand less expensive.
Well, so they're a couple grand less expensive right out the gate, but because they don't change and because they don't have electric start and hydro clutches, and
Suzuki makes a couple grand more on the backside.
Well, no, so they're a couple grand cheaper right off the gate, and then they also don't sell. So it makes them significantly cheaper when you go to buy one
a year or two later.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, I really can't hate on the Suzukis. They're at the end of the day, they are really good bikes.
They're some of the best turning bikes, and on a smooth track. I mean, even to this day, every time if it's a smoother, turn intensive track, they're incredible.
Oh God, they work great. Yeah. And even a couple years ago when we tested the RMZ 450X,
the RMX 450Z,
450Z, that was a really good motorcycle for what it was, and it really didn't get this.
Oddly enough, that one had electric start.
It did have electric start, and it even then didn't get that big of a bump from sales. It didn't sell that well.
Well, they kind of had them for a while, and then they kind of went away, and they're
but at the end of the day, I've actually got quite a few buddies that went out and purchased one of those, and they currently are still racing them in the desert and racing them in Grand Prix style races, because it gets them into the 450 class. It gets them into good suspension, brand new motorcycle that's got, it doesn't have any ailments because it's still a brand new bike off the showroom floor, but significantly cheaper than the other Jap manufacturers, and definitely cheaper than the Austrian.
Yeah. And when we're talking about all these bikes, the levels, like Yamaha's done all these improvements to their bike, let's just say, and they made a lot of improvements, and if you're on the edge of like, I need every last bit of this, which none of us do, but we all feel like we do, you're going to notice the Yamaha, like from last year to this year, most guys would probably notice it. Now, if you rode the Yamaha and the new Suzuki and you're not at the kind of the top of your game, and we've had this happen when we do shootouts and stuff like that, if the guy isn't really into it, like following everything or really feel it, sometimes the Suzuki's actually a better bike.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not better when they have to kickstart it. It's not better when the track gets rough. But this is the kind of guy that is not going to ride around a rough track.
And even then, I mean, at the end of the day, okay, so we have to kickstart this bike. It's a little harder on the left hand, but the money you save there, I mean, if you were to go out and try to be a privateer racer right now, I mean, think of the amount of tires that you could show up with brand new sticker tires to every race you show up to for 2 years would negate the cost of the bike.
Yeah, and I like. I'm not defending it. I mean, I wish they were making new ones, better ones every year and stuff. But there's a spot for it, and there's good there's variety. I wish somebody would actually make like almost a budget motocross bike.
And I don't want to call the Suzuki a budget motorcycle bike
because it's not.
And it's a good quality bike. But at the end of the day, because they don't pump R&D into it every single year and constantly raise the price.
Yep.
It's good for the motorcycle economy. It's super good. Just like the YZ125. Everyone complains that no one ever changes these. YZs.
Oh yeah, they did complain. They were just saying it should be direct injected and
of course, but then it would cost $10,000 and it would have a KTM sticker on it. It'd
still have a Yamaha sticker on it. It needs to have a hydraulic clutch and it needs to have oh no, we got off the air forks. Where are we at now?
But yeah, so I mean that bike is fantastic for the economy, and this X I think is fantastic as well because it's maybe MSRP might be $300, $400, $500 more to get an 18-inch wheel and some different characteristics out of it, but you're still probably I don't want to throw numbers out there, but several grand cheaper than
yeah,
next
we looked at some dealers when we were doing our 450 shootout because we had to, just in stacking it, we had high level riders that were complaining about the Suzuki, and it was mostly about the shock. In all honesty, a little bit of the fork, a little bit of shock, some about the weight. When we got over the kickstarting issue, we had to start going. Okay, look, it's your money, and you're going down to your dealer. This is the way. So we brought the price into the equation we were talking about. And we wanted to bring that up. So I'm going to go to questions right now.
Okay.
Let's see. Chris Smith wants to know how much is it to be a sponsor on the TV for an episode. Behind me, you send me an email at jimmy@dirtbiketest.com and we can discuss that in private. Let's see. Somebody said get some good lights like Baja Designs. Everything is different at night. What's been your guys' experience? I use a lot of Baja Designs lights, and I love them. They're high quality, super, and you get what you pay for. You pay the extra $50 for the next level up in light, and you're going to get easily $50 more light. Excellent lights. Yes, I run them. I ride at night a lot. I have them on my adventure bikes as well as auxiliary lights. Great. Let's see. What about XR650s? Let's see. Okay, now
I brought it up.
Ray Groom, Dead Kennedys or Minor Threat? Minor Threat. He's asking about punk bands there. Recycled bowling balls. What does that have to do with anything? Marco asks, hey Jimmy, you sure look nice tonight. The set looks neat. Now say something mean and make someone feel stupid. That's the way to teach. It worked for me. I was mean to you, wasn't I already?
No, I think we started the show off that way. So
I just want everybody to know that on this TV screen behind us, it's what is it going to cost John to not get us to play this video that we have?
Oh,
yeah, that's what.
That's rough.
That's the question, that's Chris Smith. Let's see, Stephen Walker, 350, 500 bikes on the tires. Yes, I also like Kenda. Oh, he was the one that asked about the. Oh, great. Okay, Stephen, I'm going to send me another question for next week and specify the size, and I'll go into that. I told you I was gonna. I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. I was. How do I know this? I'm gonna have to answer this question again. Water wetter. Yes, George. No, that's not what you did to your pants. You didn't water wetter your pants. Let's see. Last week I claimed to Jimmy that he and I rode in the same areas around Vegas. He quickly made me feel like a lowlife, as I am not a hard enduro champ. Barely survives as a volunteer on a KOM 18. So, Oh, good. So
we appreciate your volunteer.
Yeah, we appreciate it. John volunteered and raced.
I did.
Yeah. Sorry, Jesse. I can't remember names and faces, but I remember all the rocks. So, anyways, where do I buy a better rider? You don't buy a better rider. You go to JimmyLewisOffroad.com, and we don't have a schedule up there because we don't start up again until October. And you come to the class, and then you go and practice all the stuff that we teach because it's like a shot in the arm of heroin, and then you just need more. Let's see.
More riding techniques.
More riding
and
techniques.
Practice, yes.
StarTron is the stuff. I have used that as well. I haven't. I'm going to put it in my test. Helps keep the water suspended. Now, Chris Real is another guy I need to get in here because he's like a petroleum engineer. He could talk right over my head on all of this stuff. So, let's see. It lubricates the system, which allows the detergent to clean and adheres hydrocarbons and others such as ethanol and extra water to be pulled through the combustion chamber as a balanced firing. Yeah, that's what they told me, Bobby. Almost exactly that this stuff, it allows it to suck the ethanol and water into the fuel without it, so it doesn't separate as much, I guess. So
I wonder would the detergent in this?
No San Felipe Bob, Jesse mentioned.
That's weird.
Wife kidnapped me, he said. And how did he show up? He gets called out, and then he showed. Somebody must have texted him.
Yep.
Told him he's not being followed. So that's it for our questions.
So one last question on this.
Yes.
Is the detergent in this, do we think that it might have something to do with the friction? So losing friction in order to help get it through injectors and get it to move around and flow freely?
Lose it. I don't.
Those words?
Don't know. If I think. Like they explained the detergent is these long chain hydrocarbons. That's what they said the detergent is. Now it doesn't. When it sits there, they may go and attach to something, but if they don't go anyplace, they don't do any cleaning. That's
what I'm saying. So kind of as they pass by and they daisy chain on the pieces to pull it out.
To pull it out.
I would assume that's lowering friction, correct? Because in order for it to pass by a piece to grab it.
No, I think you need to go buy one of those straight hoses for your fuel injector.
Yeah, I don't have any clue what I'm talking about, but I'm trying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Please tell all your friends to watch us. Yeah, just send this. Let's get the numbers up on this thing. That way, I can go get more than $10 for the logo behind me.
Share it. Share it on your personal page. My mother watched tonight.
Share it to John's mom so that she knows where to find him. I want to thank everybody for coming on. Gabe for helping out get our pictures up behind us on the background. John for being helpful as usual. Hopefully his work schedule allows him to come in more often. I can't make it rain, so I can't dangle that carrot in front of him anymore. And as you noticed, I didn't have any tequila tonight because
there was certainly no
I forgot
rain either.
So on that note, we will see you next week, hopefully, because I'm going to be a little bit remote, but I may be able to pull it off, and I might even have a really famous special guest, but that's just a nugget of information.
More famous than I?
He might have, a little bit more, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It depends on where we're talking about. In the motorcycle community, yeah. He's got some Instagram followers. So, okay, signing off. We will see you out on the trail. Ciao.